Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump should, and he might very well, endorse Jim Jordan for Speaker of the House. Now, he just unendorsed, and I did a segment on that, Kevin McCarthy. He never really endorsed Kevin McCarthy, although it was reported that he did. He only endorsed McCarthy for the congressional contest that he's engaged in. Other than that, he has not officially endorsed anyone, although I think if he gets good advice, God forbid he gets good advice, he'll endorse Jim Jordan. And here's why. Nancy Pelosi spent her entire tenure in the House as the House Majority Leader, or Speaker of the House, I should say, as Speaker of the House, trying desperately to impeach Trump with photo ops with her and Trump and Schumer, and she was like this, and they were arguing, and that fed into the absolute manic, hysterical, apoplectic media coverage of Trump, where they're still going at it because he approved certain despicable chants against his vice president. And how do we know that he approved this? How do we know that he wanted to harm his vice president? Because it's been reported that a staffer of Mark Meadows or someone close to a congressional staffer heard him say that. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with Hunter's emails that Jim Jordan has actually read and explains correlate directly to criminal conduct. You don't have direct correlations to criminal conduct with Trump. Sorry, you don't. That's why he hasn't been indicted. It's not because Merrick Garland doesn't want to. It's not because James Comey is going to bat for Trump the way he did for Madam Secretary. Oh, we couldn't find intent with Hillary's emails. Top secret intelligence on private servers. Are you kidding me? How on earth does top secret intelligence find its way onto private servers? Maybe Jake Sullivan knows. Maybe Peter Strzok or Andrew McCabe know. But that is a criminal offense. James Comey stated, there was no intent there. It is impossible to transfer classified data outside of U.S. networks. But it happened. Again, I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024, and I think she's going to run again. But she might not. I think that mashed potato brains won't run. So that's the Democrats have nobody else. And she desperately wants to be president. And so, anyway, she said she wasn't because mashed potato brains was going to run. That would be disruptive, but it would only be disruptive if he was going to run. So he's not going to run almost certainly. Anyway, that's another story. I would love to see Hillary Trump 2024 for many, many reasons. Many reasons. That would be fantastic because we need to redo 2016. We're still living in it. But here, Newsweek, Jim Jordan for Speaker of the House. Trump allies rip Kevin McCarthy. Jim Jordan could become Speaker of the House and launch GOP vengeance fantasy. MSNBC panelists. Because it's interesting, the MSNBC panelists have no problem with endless investigations of Trump. See, the thing is, with Trump, they can't find anything. He was never in politics. The only time he was in politics was from 2015 to now. The Clintons have been in politics forever. There have been countless scandals and controversies. Democrats' media had to cram 30 years of Bill and Hillary controversies within 6 years with Trump. And so they've almost successfully done that. The apoplectic coverage of Trump, they're going after what he is said to have stated, what he's alleged to have been quoted as saying. Meanwhile, they're ignoring Hunter's emails that actually show people saying, how can you use your influence on the company's behalf? A company that's giving him millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. That, by the way, we can go into a whole thing regarding that. But Lou Dobbs said he would be excited for Jim Jordan. This is The Hill. as House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy is a nice person who gets along with everybody. And that's not, you don't need another Paul Ryan. Trump would be doing himself a disservice. Donald Trump would be doing the same thing. Kevin McCarthy is perhaps a tiny bit more loyal Paul Ryan. You saw the tapes with Liz Cheney, and it's like, okay, you can't have somebody that is reaching across the aisle to never Trumpers. That can't happen anymore. Nancy Pelosi doesn't do that. When was the last time Pelosi or anyone within the Democratic Party, gave an olive branch to somebody who didn't like mashed potato brains Joe or Hillary? It never happened. These things don't have... The Democratic Party is a political machine. It's a finely tuned political machine. By the way, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel, and hit subscribe to the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel. We'll get to the economy in a second. The economy is in freefall, and I predicted all of that in September of 2021. Go to the description section. You will see in the Stock Market Crash and on H.A. Goodman, I stated we're going to head into a stock market crash, and I predicted the Bitcoin crash, and I have a Bitcoin crash to 10,000 or lower channel. It's going to happen, unfortunately. And we're going to have a shortage of diesel exhaust fluid. Diesel fuel is going to get to probably $7 or more eventually. And transportation, commerce, business relies on trucks, the trucking industry, cargo ships, trains, manufacturing. All of these industries run on diesel fuel. This is something that nobody cares about on the left. Okay, they made it very difficult for fossil fuel companies or oil and gas companies to operate. Then they complain about price gouging. It's like, make up your mind. You want to go after oil and gas companies or you don't. You want to save the planet from them or you don't. But don't ban leasing and then say, well, they have permits. It's like, well, it's more than just permits. Why don't you trust the experts? Like, you remember when you were trusting the experts 2 years ago, Democrats? Why don't you trust the oil and gas experts? Are you in the oil industry? Then you need to be quiet and listen to experts within the oil industry, oil and gas and fossil fuel industry, because they understand exactly how difficult it is because of mashed potato brains Joe and Democrats trying to transform the economy from fossil fuels to renewables. Just own it. Just own it. If you want to save the economy, or if you want to save the planet, then just say, look, it's worth the high gas prices. That's why I'm voting Democrat. Don't say, oh, I want to save the planet. I'm happy that Biden did all of these things to get oil and gas associations and 14 states to sue him because of his oil and gas and energy policies. They're literally suing him in 2021. And it's still in the courts. And within the lawsuits, they explain exactly why his policies are going to increase the cost of energy. And still, Democrats and economists who are Democrats, liberal Democratic Party economists, still don't realize it's their fault. Pick a lane. Stay in your lane. You want to combat climate change? Stay in your lane. You're not an expert on oil and gas. Remember, we were told you can't pontificate or preach or even critique the experts. Stay in your lane. You know nothing about oil and gas and fossil fuels. Morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. Stay in your lane. Can you defeat an oil and gas representative or lobbyist, or mainly a person who works in that industry, on how difficult it is in this current administration, on why it's so difficult, on why gas prices are so high? Can you defeat them in an argument? No, of course not. You don't know enough about the oil and gas industry. You're not an expert. You're not an expert, Democrats. Anyway, getting back to Jim Jordan. If Trump wants the big payback like James Brown, if he gets Kevin McCarthy, he ain't going to get any payback. I mean, it's not going to be good for Donald Trump. If he wants to do to Democrats what they did to him, if he wants that, not saying I do, if Trump wants the political equivalent of Nancy Pelosi, and probably even better, then he'll get Jim Jordan. Kevin McCarthy is another Paul Ryan. So Trump would be doing himself a disservice. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel right now. I'll be back in a couple of hours, people. Thank you so very